हेलो दोस्तों, मैं हूं दिनेश केवोरा। आप सबका स्वागत है न्यूज टाइम के ऊपर। एज यूजुअल, दिस शो विल बी preferably in English only, because today we have got a distinguished guest from the Bangladesh, Vice Chancellor of Northern University, Bangladesh. And I think we feel honored, we feel privileged that a person of a high stature, Dr. Anwar Hussain, is with us to talk about the educational processes and the status of higher education in Bangladesh. Sir, most welcome to this show, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Dinesh Boyda, for inviting me and giving me this privilege to meet you and through you, the people in India, our brotherly people, whom we regard and respect a lot. And on this momentous day, when we are celebrating our golden jubilee of our liberation war. Thank you very much. And we also recognize the contribution you made.
Sir, before I begin, let me and my channel greet all the citizens of Bangladesh the happy Independence Day and 50 years, the golden jubilee of independence. Bangladesh has traveled a lot. I think they have right now a privileged place, at least in many countries in this world. And now Bangladesh is looked upon as something like a land of opportunity, growth, prosperity, and maybe I think it's also rightly called the land of rising sun in the Asia, of course, after Japan. There is no doubt about it.
Thank you very much, sir, for those praising words. But we thank our founding father, the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, for the contribution he made for our independence, the struggle he went through, and also the very pragmatic policy ushered by our current Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. Her wise leadership is taking us to the development path.
That's great. And we also greet on the occasion of the centenary of the Bangabandhu, which is being celebrated with the golden of the Bangladesh independence. So it's a great moment. And India has also restored the Gandhi Peace Prize on Bangabandhu this year.
Very deserving one, because we followed the Gandhi model very much in our struggle for independence.
Fantastic.
On cooperation.
Let me just speak a few words about Dr. Hussain. He's an academic engaged in the teaching and the educational administration for nearly 5 decades. It's a long, long period, you can say. Specializing in human resources management and strategic management, he's also a pioneer to introduce BBA program in Bangladesh. For the last 10 years, he's serving as Vice Chancellor in 3 private universities, and right now it's Northern University, Bangladesh. Sir, feel happy, delighted, and honored to be with you.
Thank you, sir.
The very first thing first. Our viewers would like to know about the status of the higher education in Bangladesh, because in India, not many people are aware about the universities or the status of higher education, the research, the patents being filed, and the status of also the scientific institutions. What exactly is happening? Just first give us a brief overview that what is the status of education and higher education in Bangladesh.
Thank you very much for asking a very pertinent question, because I'm an educationist and I deal with that. But the issue is that when Bangladesh was born, back in 1971, internationally it was called a basket case. And for the 22 years, 24 years during our existence as a part of Pakistan, we had been the source of exploitation, and the education did not thrive to the extent that it should have been. Now, after the liberation, the education got the priority by the father of the nation, and he publicized all the private, say, the preliminary institutions, especially the primary education was nationalized, and that way there was a boost to the education sector. And gradually we found that our primary education, then the secondary education, and the tertiary level education, which was not very much grown, and it required some assistance, not only from the public sector, but as well as the private sector. And that idea came later on in the 90s, when in 1992, the first Private University Act was passed in the parliament. Then the private universities came up in a rush. And in the first generation, now it is the third generation private universities are coming. But now the government has given a restraint on that because of the, fast breeding of so many private universities in the context, which did not have much of the resources to pull on, especially the human resources.
Sure.
And the issue of higher education, not many students were able to pursue their education in our country, especially in the higher education sector, because there was not enough seats available. And aspiring numbers were huge. As you know, if you look into our population pyramid, we have a bulge in the bottom level. So more younger population we have, and they need to have the primary, secondary, and higher education. So where would they go? And they started to go to India, go to Canada, go to Australia, go to England and America.
Okay.
And even now this process is still there.
Okay.
And the government also realized that there is a requirement for providing the students with the better education facility within the home. And that's why the private universities have come up. And you'll be astonished to know that right now, the available seats in the private universities is more than the public universities.
Oh.
There are only 39 public universities in Bangladesh, having some specialized universities in the agriculture sector, in the technology, science, engineering, and general education, and also in other areas, medical universities. But private university number is staggering. 103 private universities now operating, but not all of them are doing well. There are some top ranking universities, first 10 of them, they are doing very well. They are drawing a lot of students, and they are also having a lot of resources, lab facilities, and all kinds of. But the now problem is they having enough faculty members. Because if you have one, there is a statistic that says right now in the private universities, out of 103 private universities, only 33 has a regular vice chancellor.
Okay.
Because the quality people are not there, and the process of selecting the vice chancellor is a very rigorous one. It is the same as the public university vice chancellor selected by the chancellor, that is the president of the country.
Correct.
So resources are now being spent, but still we are not resource-wise. We cannot say that we have enough from the government support. Government is doing so far whatever it is possible, but we need further fund to go for the researches. And there is a weakness in our education system that most of the universities are doing for teaching only, and researchers and publications are not given that much support, especially in the private sector. In the public universities, there are a lot of facilities available, but in the private sector, some universities are doing well, but others are not doing to the extent that.
But are grants are available from the government to the private universities?
That is not there. Government is not providing grants to the private universities because they are think that they have enough of their tuition fees are not restrained. Okay. So they can charge the tuition fees to the students, but in the public sector, the tuition fees are very, very minimal compared to the present day spending. So it is highly subsidized. Government subsidizes about 90 to 95% in the public universities, but in the private universities, there is no subsidy on the part of the government. But there are some grants recently available through some Prime Minister's Fund initiative, that is A2I, in the sector of technological education, technical education. And there possibly some grants are available. And also University Grants Commission of some providing some research funds, but that is very minimal compared to the requirement that we are talking about. And some universities are doing on their own. And interestingly, there are some universities which are connected with a big NGOs, not non-government organizations, and they have sufficient fund available from local sources and also from outside. They're also providing some funds to the faculty members and the departments to carry on the researches. Unfortunately, that part is a weakness in our program. So far, private universities are concerned.
Even I have felt it because I'm also visiting faculty, teach MBA classes on the HRD and soft skills. Of course, HRD now almost stopped because more concentrating on the soft skills right now, team building, communication, and other such things, which are basically attitudinal abilities required by the students, and they lack it hugely, actually. That's one reason even in India, the 85% of the graduates are unemployable in the nature because they lack such kind of skills. I think such kind of skills are also being imparted in Bangladesh profusely by the universities there, because they also become the part of the curriculum these days, as aptitudinal skills are not just sufficient, attitudinal skills are also required. What is the status in your university, sir, right now about the attitudinal skills?
Well, you see, the issue is that the soft skills are mainly highly sought after in the corporate levels because they require it very much. But right now, the challenge is to provide the basic, the educational level to the students and the graduates, so that they can go and join in the corporate level or in their profession and other issues. So we outsource some of the soft skill training from outside vendors, and they provide those kind, like Wadhuni Foundation and other foundation, they provide the soft skill. Even some corporate level, they also outsource resources from New Zealand and other company organizations where they have certain, technological expertise in that area. And basically, what I would suggest that that kind of, sophistication in the level of employment, and we provide them with certain training in respect of how to face an interview, how to keep your compose and confidence, and to follow through a question and all those issues. And we also draw the expertise from the industry to provide that kind of training and support. But as a systematic process, that is not there. And I feel that basically the students lack two things mostly. It is the confidence in English language, and also the computational capability, the math. These are the two areas. That's why they go for certain subjects where these challenges are not there very much. And since in the private university, it is written, it's a policy that 100% medium of instruction will be in English. So that is the problem. And also most of the textbooks are also written in English.
Yes.
That is why the students are suffering. And I feel as an educationist that we need to do something to go for our local language, translation of the books and scientific textbooks into Bengali, and to provide some medium of instruction in Bengali or mother tongue, so that they can assimilate and learn and also be conversant in this subject matter.
So Bangladesh is very fortunate in one way that at least they have got one single language, which is the binding factor. Whereas in India, we have got at least more than
so many languages. I understand that.
So the medium of, you can say, instruction has to be English only. Otherwise, it's virtually impossible to carry out the things.
That's right.
Now, one simple thing which I would like my viewers would like to know is, when the students enroll for the primary classes, what is the percentage of the students reaching the graduation level and the post-graduation level in Bangladesh?
Well, if you are talking about the tertiary level education, in the primary level, we have almost achieved 100%, the education, literacy rate and other things, especially because the government has made it compulsory to get enrolled in the primary schools.
Okay.
And also they have made it free for the female students up to their graduation level. That's why right now in the school enrollment, the girls have outnumbered the males. In the schooling system. That is a remarkable, pathway for the development of Bangladesh, especially the women power. Because if you look into our garments industry, 90% of the workers are the female. And you see most of the entrepreneurs are also coming in the garments, in the female entrepreneurs are also coming up, the startups and other things. Now, this female education is encouraging, and even in the university level where I teach, we have about 31 to 33% students who are female.
Oh,
but there are some departments. There are some departments where it is still to catch up with the parity, gender parity, and other issues that you were talking about. Now, the students' graduation level still, if I talk about some institutes, suppose IBA, where I spent 37 years teaching in my primary career, the passing out rate of the students enrolled and graduation was almost only 40%.
40%.
40%. It was very, very, rigid one. The premier business school in Bangladesh, which is under Dhaka University Institute of Business Administration. There it was like that. And it was for the Masters of program. But when you went into the BBA program, the reason why I was a pioneer to the BBA program, because in IBA, which was set up in 1966, and we initiated the 1987, I initiated the BBA program. But because of certain, our charter did not allow us to go for undergraduate. It was a postgraduate institute. So we had to wait for 5 years. In 1992, we launched the program in IBA, BBA. And that became the, the front runner for most of the private universities to take the queue and go for the BBA program, because there is a huge pull of students who would like to go for a professional degree in business. And earlier, it was only the multidisciplinary approach of the MBA program. So we used to get students from other discipline where people have already, is the residual students. Their quality was not that good, the input, but they made miracles. They became very successful, managers, executives, top executives in the corporate level. Right now, you see the majority of the banking sectors are, manned by the MBA graduates from IBA. So that is, so when we went to the BBA program, then the attrition rate reduced, because the students coming for 4 years, they had a chance to go through, and only bright students could join there. Because at the intermediate level, HSC level, you decide which profession you'd go, whether you want to be a scientist, whether you want to be a lawyer, whether you want to be engineer or doctor. So if you can have a sourcing program where it is at the undergrad level, that was the reason I went for that.
Okay.
To get the quality students, because that is where you have to tap. The water is there. So if you cannot, previously we used to go through the route which was two years above in the graduate program. So that is the problem. And that solved that problem.
Bangladesh is also relying on the import of the talent as far as management is.
Well, that is a huge
many domains, and I think the middle level and top level management is being hired from abroad in a very large number.
Sure.
That probably is an indication of the paucity of the talent being there, or rather people who are not coming to these courses and getting qualified. Sir, what are the reasons behind that?
The reasons are many. As you have mentioned, we are also aware of this fact. Even in our country, in our university, when you are looking for a technical person, it is very difficult to deal with. Suppose that right now I'm going to look for 3 heads of departments in 3 departments, law, business, and EEE. I have given the ads in the online, in the offline, but no result. The quality of people who are coming are not quality. So they do not have the required experience and quality level. That is very poor. And that's why we have to outsource. In the garment sector, a lot of people are being hired from Sri Lanka, from India, and from other places. As you know, this is there. Even some of the corporate, they are giving a very high salary to them. But our graduates are not coming up to that level. Suppose if you see nursing, in nursing profession, the attitudinal problem. Good students are not coming in that sector. People are students from noble family. They are not coming to that sector. So we cannot have qualified people in that sector. So
even in the nursing, sir, in India, Kerala is the one state which basically feeding this profession in a very large number, actually.
Yeah.
So that's the nursing state of the India. But now you talked about the quality issue, actually, as far as the people coming out of the universities and not sufficient, as you also floated the so-called requirements for your universities and various departments, and not getting the required talent there, actually. Now, these gaps seems to be the huge, the quality gaps, actually. So over the years,
this is because the university, the education, the GDP is going very fast. Industrialization process is going fast. Urbanization is going fast. Foreign investment is also coming fast. So our education system cannot keep pace with that. Right now, we need more doctors, more engineers who are at the upper level. And another problem is the lack of research. Since there is not quality research and lab and equipments, we cannot produce the quality graduate that we should have. So that is another reason.
I'll be coming to this one point now. When I look at the university rankings in the world, and even India is also laggard in that one, but somehow some of the IITs and Indian
none of us is within the 1,000 range. Yeah, even the Dhaka University.
They in the top 200-300 at least, and 500. Many Indian institutions are there. At least IITs and IIMs and Indian Institute of Science and some others are there, actually. So slowly India is coming up with that one. But in the last one of the ranking, barely I think Dhaka University could touch 1,000 somewhere in the ranking. Now, these quality gaps where the more interaction is required with the foreign faculties, foreign students, and lot many other things.
Right.
What is lacking in Bangladesh, putting at least 4 to 5 or maybe the 10 universities in the top 500. What are those challenges? What are the gap areas and what can be done, sir?
I think you have asked a very pertinent question. That is also a thinking. That is also a problem that we are also thinking about it very loudly. The issue is that you need to create some center of excellence where you can have all the resources available, and to do that, I think you require much more commitment, support from the government as well as the founder or the trustee board who run the universities, and total freedom for the faculty members in that context. This is not forthcoming. So still the people who are running the private universities, they have a certain control degree of the governance issue is very much there. And I find the similar thing happening also in Indian context. When you go and visit under MDSA, some of the institutes where the business education is being given, the governance issue is there. Some control, veiled or exposed, or is very much there. So that has to be there. Complete free thinking and free doing things. If it is not allowed, it will not accelerate the range of independent thinking and also patenting and all other issues that you're talking about. And research has to be done in a very unfettered way with all the support. That is not forthcoming. That is one issue. And the resolve to get the foreign teachers, foreign managers is a really difficult process, especially in the education system. You need a lot of, NOCs, lot of cumbersome bureaucratic procedure to get through to obtain a faculty member. I tried that when I was in Southeast University as a vice chancellor. I used to bring one teacher from Singapore. He was an advertising man, British citizen, but he did not want to charge any money. But simply just getting him off for a work permit, I had to go through so much hassle. So I said, gave it up. So he came on a tourist visa and gave some talk and left. So that happens. That is very much there. We have to yet to develop certain, policy issues which will allow this kind of free flow of expertise from abroad.
I totally agree with you. The academic freedom is one of the...
I think it is similar also in India and also in our...
Yes. And recently there had been one university which is in the news, itself. I don't want to name it right now, but I think two of the people, Bhanu Mehta and Arvind Subramaniam, had to resign, and a lot of resentment and a lot of protests by the students are going on. And it has brought some kind of a blot and a bad name actually, because when the academic freedom is snatched, or it comes, if not snatched, at least when it comes under pressure, definitely the institutions cannot excel the way they are required to be, or they rather expected to be. There's no doubt about it. And that's probably one reason that America has been the dream destination for...
That's most of the... that is what I was checking with some of the data right now, last year, about 7,500, scholars from Bangladesh, they went to America to study for higher education. And another 6,500 went to Canada for that, the same reason. And but one interesting research report that came across, it was, although it is old, 2014, normally in our popular journalistic views and the popular conception is that private universities are not quality education. They do not compare to the public universities. But this guy, Mr. Majumdar, he came up with a report which says that 2014, he made a study between USA and Bangladesh, analysis of quality in public and private universities. And he mentioned that the students in the private universities are more satisfied compared to the public universities. That's a very interesting feature. I don't know. So
yes. We are also getting such kind of news because I am covering Bangladesh extensively. So I know the Bangladesh is just going ahead and having the long strides. There's no doubt about it. But much distance is still to be covered. Now, coming to the topic of research, sir, PhDs and this further research. Now, that is one area which requires a lot of attention, and you have also mentioned it. That the quality papers and patents are not there. The quality stuff which should have come to the rescue of the industry, it is not coming. What exactly is happening? How many PhDs are coming out in this area? Because India's figure is around 25,000 PhDs, at least in some of the domains, not all domains, some domains. Whereas China has got around 34,000, America has got around 40,000 in engineering areas. you can say. But what is the state of Bangladesh in the mathematics, physics, chemistry,
Yeah.
in the areas which are related with innovation,
Technology.
industrial revolution?
Thank you very much for posing this question, because I keep on telling some of the policymakers whenever I find chance that what is the difference between the education system in America, in India, and in Bangladesh. That is an old statistic, but still I quote that in USA about 30 to 40,000 PhDs are turning out every year from the universities. In India, about 6,000 to 7,000. And at that time in Bangladesh, not more than 100 PhDs are coming out. So that is the level of difference in the PhD studies. And some of the PhDs that we are churning out now, these are no PhDs at all. These are all, titles. As it is also available in the Western world also, you can buy a PhD. So similar thing also happened. But in the public universities, some universities are providing. I think the Shah Jalal University in Sylhet, they are doing fine. They are doing some quality research and quality PhD program. Dhaka University also has got some quality program and quality researchers. But as I said, the main problem with some of the subjects, physics, chemistry, math, or technological subjects, the main problem is the lack of quality, latest equipments and laboratory facilities. That is not forthcoming. Because I, as a private university administrator, I also feel the same problem, because my pharmacy department does not have the latest equipments for tablet producing and also quality control. My EEE program does not have the latest Canada-based communication network system that you can develop. I do not have an AS server, which can provide the maximum, support for our online program. So these issues are there, because the money that we get from the tuition fees is the only money to cater to all our maintenance and also for our development requirements, which is a very challenging one. And especially when we are trying to build a permanent campus, we are almost finished. It is a 100 crore permanent campus the Northern University is building, and our chairman, AYM Abdullah, he is a good academician himself. He is spending all his fortune for this, and we are coming up with that. Maybe someday we'll be able to get all those equipments, all those lab facilities in place, and also the quality to be graduates will also improve in that respect. But that is very much problematic. But despite this fact, I will say that I am proud that some of my faculty members in EEE, they are publishing 4 Scopus journal articles every semester. So this is happening. But I cannot provide them with many support. Even to pay for their submission fee for the articles is also difficult for us. That is the issue. That is the
any information you have, sir, in Bangladesh about the industrial patents being filed there with people?
Industrial patents, some of us, like our CSE department, has already done one filing. That is will be on, a kind of, apps they're trying to produce, where fire brigades work will be very much, coordinated. But there are some happening, but I'm not aware of what is happening in other universities, because they might have. I heard that BRAC has got some, BRAC University, that is also ranked as #1 right now by some of the, accreditation bodies. And another point is that our accreditation council has been set up by the government. And once it is working as a vigorous, because it is still in the inception process, I think only this regulatory, because UGC, University Grants Commission, is simply regulates our initial commissioning. But somebody to monitor our work and quality, we needed someone. And that body has been formed recently, the Accreditation Council. If they operate in a vigorous way, possibly the quality issues will be much more improved so far the university education is concerned in Bangladesh. So we are still following some of the pathways to go much higher level.
Dr. Saab, I got a very long list of topics to be discussed, but maybe I will require 2 more episodes or 3 more episodes.
Yeah, no problem. I can go on discussing, because yes. I have
one subject which is very close to my heart and whose studies are also very important. And before I wind up the show and wait for the next episode to discuss a lot of other issues on educational, you can say, standards and processes in the Bangladesh, one thing I would like to just discuss right now with you is the Bangladesh is the most vulnerable country as far as climate is concerned.
Right.
environment, climate, and these things are which also worry me actually. Uh, as far as ecological studies are concerned, climate studies are concerned, marine life studies are concerned, the sea is now coming inside every year rather than approaching about the land and taking over the
Mm.
water, you can say, sources. So environmentally, it's a very, very vulnerable state. What kind of environmental, ecological, climate related studies are being done in the universities of Bangladesh, and what kind of emphasis is being given on that also?
Very, very good question. Well, you see, our government is very much alert and alive about this issue because disaster management had been a very big topic for all of us. And I remember in Dhaka University, we had a center where the Center for Management and Population, and Dr. Alimullah Mia, he came up with a disaster management, concept.
Sir.
He started a workshop and training for that. And I think right now in Bangladesh has got made a mark in terms of disaster management preparedness so far the global situation is concerned, because we have been exposed to this disaster very. And the government is also has developed a delta plan, 100 years delta plan,
Yes,
to
yes.
take care of the blue economy and the
Correct.
marine resources. In Chittagong University, there is a marine biology course. They are also teaching marine and research. And also government has set up a marine university, which will take care primarily these resources.
Fantastic.
And and Northern University, I'm also pioneering a research in the area of blue economy. And we have also tied up with one Indian university, Techno India in Calcutta. They are now with us for giving some higher education topic to Bangladeshi students, where marine blue economy will be the subject matter for their dissertation and research. So this is happening in many ways. And government also has a secretariat, a cell, which takes care of the blue economy and the marine researches and other issues. So funding is also available in this level. And still, it was not there very much a few decades before, but now it has become a top priority for the government, also for the academics. And in Chittagong University, it's being done, and Bangladesh, not to the extent that it should have been. I'm sure. I accept that, and I agree with you that the kind of ecological and environmental research that has to be done, and the academic program, environment program, only few universities have got environment management as a program. As a course, it is there, but not as a full-blown program, which should be there to take care of the environment issues. And also in the coastal area, some rehabilitation and relief is working, but not much development plan. But afforestation is going on in a big swing, and government forestry department and other departments are also working. Because in Bangladesh, not only this issue of river erosion, the sea erosion, but also some silting problem for
Yes.
the navigability problems that are happening. And you see, I was watching the CNN yesterday, and I saw that 100 container ships are stranded in Suez Canal because of
Yes.
this erosion
Yeah.
problem.
Huge
this
problem.
huge problem is happening all over the world,
So
especially Bangladesh. Bangladesh being a delta region, we have to face the brunt of the all kinds of alluvial soils and the other things that come up in the river process.
yes,
From
there are problems,
Nepal
but
and other places. Yeah.
to ease the congestion at the Chittagong airport, at least now Batarbari port is there. It's coming up. Paira is there. Mongla is there. So they also support ports are there. I hope maybe in another 3 to 4 years time, the pressure will be lesser on the Chittagong port as far as transportation.
Hopefully, if the government has taken lot big. I think in the education sector, the government policies so far, primary and secondary level, is very good because they have been supporting these two sections very closely and also very generously. But in the university system, the government assistance is coming up. Right now, it is opening up because their priority had been the primary and the secondary level. Because if you look into the data, the investment in the primary and secondary level data will give you more return. Return on investment will be much higher at that level compared to the university level. And also because the university level, you have more options to go abroad or go some other place to get the information. And there was a craze for the people and also for parents to send their sons and wards abroad to get higher education. So that fascination is still now there. So even if you create a world-class university in Bangladesh, people will be still going to some other destination.
But that's happening in India also. I have
because
got
they want the
yes, as views I told you, I have got a very long list like mathematics, zoology, botany,
Uh,
chemistry, physics. Then the subjects which are related with the fourth industrial revolution,
Right.
artificial
Yeah, that is another area.
blockchain, Internet of Things, and
Sure.
then precision medicine, very
Right.
specialized subject, urban planning, and of course space technology and some more things. So subjects are many, and I'm sure in coming weeks when I'll be again inviting Dr. Anwar Hussain back on this show, I'll be asking these questions about these domains. Not questions, rather I will be seeking his information, level of information, what exactly is happening in Bangladesh, because my list is pretty long, and I remain unsatisfied as far as unless I get answers to all these things, because ultimately answers through this program, again going back to the viewers in Bangladesh, also in Pakistan, in Nepal, and in India.
Mr. Bohra, before you finish, let me tell you the list that you have given is very long, pretty long. And some of them could be, not my cup of tea, because I specialized in the management area and education. But, as a journalistic view, I
Yes.
can have some. But as they know, specialists know more about few. So that is the issue. So the portfolio that you have mentioned, so for education is a very big portfolio. And if you are talking about artificial intelligence, then blockchain, then cryptocurrency, all other issues, I just know them about as a layman.
I'll just seek the general information, the status, what is happening there, not as a specialist.
Yeah. But I'm always a change manager. I always love to change. In Dhaka University, I introduced in the hall administration the first computer that was delivered. I brought that for the university, and they call me that you are a silent revolutionary who just change the system. I always advocate for anything change, innovation to take place. And our university motto is innovation for change. We love that.
When I used to teach the subjects like strategic management, so I recollect the days when I used to be in many of the management colleges and used to give them a different viewpoint on the subjects, which was from the government of the India also, and how they have been doing the things, and also from the corporates, also at the grassroots level, the things which are being carried out. And I think the Bangladesh had been the pioneer as at the grassroots level, what they have done through the women empowerment. The Grameen Bank is there, Dr. Muhammad Yunus there. They have done tremendous job.
Fantastic thing. Fantastic thing.
That's why I say I have got the ocean of information about Bangladesh, but I need to seek more information on the Bangladesh.
You see, what we have done so far, the teledensity is concerned, the mobile banking and mobile situation, that is another landmark for Bangladesh. Correct. Right now, about 99% people have got the access to the mobile system. And even a farmer, they have this mobile system. Even the urban poor, he has got a mobile in his pocket. So this has done tremendously well for
us. This is empowerment. Before I leave, I just would like to see some last comments from Dr. Hussain. If I'm left out those things, please make the last comments or last few things you want to say, because maybe that might have gone out of my mind. I couldn't have asked you. So just last few points you want to raise.
I see that, this is the question of resources. You are talking about comparing the Bangladeshi education system with the American, with the Canadian, with the Indian. These are all resourceful countries compared to, and we are still a developing country. Maybe we have qualified for the middle level of income recently, but even then, I think so far the education sector is concerned, this is an area where we now talking about student loan system, which is not available through our banking channel.
Okay.
So this is another issue that we can talk about and discuss, so that the attrition rate, even now in our private university, attrition rate is high, and due to COVID, it has made a dent in the financial situation of the parents of the students, and that is also hitting us. We have already 20% reduced the tuition fee during the COVID period, and we had to go through a lot of economy to cater to the students' requirements. And this is a big problem for us, because we had to go for the online devices, we had to go for server, we had to go for the internet system, make it much more stronger, speedier, and expensive. And that way we had to make a lot of investment in that area. And also, by now, I think for the last 3 semesters we have been running, because since we had some northern universities as a particular case example, we were aware of the distance education And I introduced in 2019 2 courses run in our MBA program from outsourcing from Australia, one professor and one professor from Malaysia. And that experience helped us a lot when we switched over to online education system, online classes. So now we have 100% online classes having, and one beauty of this online system is that 100% student attendance are happening and 100% classes are also being conducted. We have not lost a day. We have not lost any exam. We have not lost any working day. And we are at par with the graduation process and other things. So that way, whereas some of the public universities are not much fortunate to conduct their academic system through online. Still, this is because this is a huge university you are talking about. There are students that spread all over the country, so it is difficult for them to go for online. But hopefully someday they will all come to online or in a blended system of education, online and offline, both together.
So my dear viewers, these were the precious, you can say, the words from Dr. Anwar Hussain. And I will try to take one opportunity through this program while talking to Dr. Hussain that I know I'm also a faculty. I also teach MBA students. I also do a lot of soft skill sessions for top class Indian management schools, whether it's leadership or team building or communication or change management, or maybe strategic management or personal branding, or maybe other smaller topics like goal setting and time management, or maybe interpersonal skills, presentation skills. Many topics are there. Through this channel, through these talks, I will offer my services free of cost to the Northern University students. If they want it online, I'll be very happy to deliver those sessions. No cost involved, absolutely. It will be my gesture towards my brothers and sisters and youngsters of the Bangladesh that if I can do something on my part to deliver such kind of few sessions, it will be great, you can say, on your part. If you can permit me, I'll deliver those sessions absolutely free of cost for your students.
Thank you, Mr. Bora. Thank you very much for this offer. I would love to have you on board in our faculty because we always welcome the speeches and the talks from the outside. I keep telling my faculty members and the head of the departments. In fact, today we also had a meeting because every week I have a vice chancellor meeting with all the heads. And I told them, try to get some outsource from faculty members all over the world because now there is no border. You can outsource from anywhere in the world. Also, you can outsource from the industry because we want to make the students corporate ready. They are ready for the industry from the first day they are graduating, so that they are not, afraid to take over the charge and the responsibility. So we have to have a industry and university linkage. That is something we are giving more importance these days since the COVID has happened, because we think that skill development is very important and soft skills very important. I have been a student of organizational behavior. I know how much the companies suffer because of lack of, these behavioral skills and the emotional issues that are involved in terms of management. You can manage the machines because they have rated capacity and all other issues and the control valves. Human being control is something different. It has to be through love, affection, and feeling for each other, empathy. So that's why we are thinking common, no problem. You are welcome to teach and also take, these issues, classes. No,
thank you very much.
Organize some. Thank you very much, sir.
So kind of you. So, my dear viewers, these were a few precious words from Dr. Anwar Hussain, the Vice Chancellor of Northern University, Bangladesh. And we are privileged and honored to have him on this show, actually. And I hope very soon we'll try to have him again to speak on various other topics, subjects which are left right now. But I believe that in coming weeks, we will still invite some other people also from Bangladesh who are from the academics and those who can contribute. And we can also learn from them. It's a mutual learning sessions, you can say, in one way. And thank you very much for coming on our show. Very soon we'll be meeting again. So viewers, give us the permission to leave the show right now. Thank you very much, sir. God bless you.
And thank you very much also. Thank you very much. And thank you for giving me the privilege to share my ignorance about the Bangladesh education system with you and with the Indian viewers. Thank you very much.
So once again, our greetings to the Bangladesh on the Bangabandhu Centenary and the Golden Jubilee of the Independence. God bless Bangladesh. Thank you very much.